So mine was actually like kind of an option swing that I think is just super flawed in the way that I executed it, and it just the probability of just giving back everything constantly is just almost 100%. So I mean, back in obviously when COVID started, the market got absolutely smoked, and I did fairly well. I mean, not fair. I did okay in some options, just buying puts in different vehicles on the way down. And I mean, relative to the move, I definitely didn't feel like I nailed it. And then after we got this massive, massive bounce, I mean, obviously it'd been a pretty good few months. The lockout's bigger, the R's are bigger, and I thought, well, I basically initially, I initiated a option swing, just buying a bunch of puts on this day, and I timed it pretty damn well the first trade. I mean, I was only risking like an R overall though, and immediately the next day it's down huge. I was just kind of looking for reversion trade on this batch. I think there was like some sort of headline that came out, and I just thought we could do something nasty the next day. And based off like the structure on the daily chart, I just thought it made sense. So day one, it worked well. I think I was risking like an R. I probably locked in like 2.5 Rs or something. And then I kind of got out of there. I thought I'd wait for like some sort of setup again on the daily and looking for another leg down. Cause I mean, I was pretty bearish overall. I definitely thought like there's a chance that we're going to just leak all the way back down to maybe like 250s or even all the way back down to 220, who knows? And so as it set up in here, I ended up like reallocating like almost all that risk into another trade up here. And I timed it fairly well initially. It was working. And then just based off the actual expiry, I thought that I needed a little bit more time because it was taking a few days in here, and I just wanted to push my timeline out. So I locked in like another like I don't know, like 3 hour trade or something, and then I ended up just like getting like pretty high conviction, and I just ended. I allocated like I had made like 2R or 2.5, and then another 3, and then I just reallocated like 6 or 7R to this third trade, because I just thought here if I just kept rolling my wrist, that was kind of like my greed mentality after this. I was like, man, if I just like 1R initially, okay, I made 3, roll 3, make 9, roll 9, make 27. Obviously, you just start counting the numbers, and because I felt like I did not capture this on the amount of risk I could have, I kind of like tried to just focus on what was going on here. And I was like, okay, this looks like similar pattern. Let me just reallocate this, and I'll just continue to make infinite money as this works in my direction and just keep re-rolling the risk. And I think it was just so flawed in the sense that I ended up like having like 2 decent trades and then just like oversizing the third one, ended up taking a loss overall on this position in a scenario that like I'm trying to replicate what happened here, which basically, if you go back on the SPY's chart since inception, I mean, this is kind of the first time it's done this. Well, it is the first time, like a 45% pullback in like a few months. Like it simply doesn't happen. So if I'm trying to do this strategy where lock in some gain, re-roll it and re-roll it and re-roll it, it's pretty much just, I mean, unless I were to have done it here, it's a 99% plus loss. At some point, I'm going to give back the entire thing. And so I just thought like the actual like foundation of the way that I approach this trade, it was just super greedy, had no idea what the like win rate would be. It's just pretty inevitable that I'm going to give back it all at some point. And at the flip side too, it's like, even if it does start working and I have insane risk allocated, like I'm likely not going to handle it, right? I mean, I'm not used to trading 7 and then maybe the next batch 15 R's on trades. So I just think that like it's inevitable. I'm going to give it all back plus more at some point with the way that I was doing this. And then there's a solid chance that my handling of the trade would have just been messed up at some point regardless. I mean, I just think that like there's no way that I'm actually going to be able to capture this trade on the amount of risk to, you know, call it quits at 25 and retire. So I just think that this at the root of the trade and the entire approach to what was going on here and the way that I just kept rolling risk was just super flawed. And then I just have, pardon?
Where did you get out?
Well, it was just options, so I was just risking to 0. So I basically just had a shit ton of premium and puts, basically just buying Q and QQQ, and then yeah, I mean I was just risking to 0. So once I got out of my first trade here, locked it in. Second trade, I locked in a bit of a green, and then I got it all back in, basically on this candle here, I think. And then, because I was just risking a zero, once it went against me, it was pretty much just, I mean, at this point, it's already at zero, basically, right? So I'm just locking in the loss overall. I mean, I was pretty narrowed on my timeline as well. So basically, it has to work or it doesn't. And at some point, it's just 100% I'm giving back the trade. I mean, I'm not going to get enough reps of this situation in my career versus the amount of times I'm going to get a small pullback, maybe capture it, and then just give all back the profits. I mean, like, we can count infinite times on this SPYs in the last 5-10 years where it would have given a pullback. If you want to just keep re-rolling profits, you're giving it all back. Maybe it works this once and then do the same thing, give it all back, do the same thing, give it all back. It's just constant, right? So just the way that I was rolling profits and thinking that I could have just captured a move like this again was just pretty wrong in my opinion. I mean, reallocating some risk is probably fine, but definitely I don't have to keep re-rolling the entire thing. I mean, I would never do that intraday where I have a 3R winner. The next trade I'm risking 3R. The next trade, then I lock in 9. Next trade I'm risking 9. Like, it just doesn't happen whatsoever. And I think it does make it a little bit easier on me on the option side where I start thinking, okay, well, if I'm risking this much over 6 days, well, it's like 2/3 of a lockout every day if it goes against me. But then, I mean, think about getting locked out 4 times in 6 days just does not happen. So based on the amount of risk I allocated to the idea, it was just bad.
So in the next
Which
go ahead, Mikey.
strike were you trading?
I think I was probably trading about 10 points out of the money, giving myself either, 5 or 10 points out of the money, given, I'm not sure. So the first one was on, I guess, what is this, June 10th? I likely would have bought, so June 10th is a Wednesday. Yeah, I likely would have bought the following Fridays. And then, so if I was here, I probably would have bought maybe like a 305 following Friday. And then I'm assuming the same thing here, maybe like a 300 the following Friday. And then as it was getting closer and I thought I just need to push my timeline, I think I probably did the same thing, maybe like a 290 the following Friday. So I just think it's inevitable give back if you're going to continue to do this kind of trading on the SPY. You don't get these crashes often enough for this to be profitable. You're just constantly going to be giving back. And I think giving back partial is fine, but rolling back or giving back the entire thing plus extra.
Bias.
Yeah. It's just not a profit. There's no longevity in a strategy that's just going to keep rolling all the profits plus more not in a scenario like this. So I thought this was
Have
pretty
you
damn
thought
bad.
about doing it in any way where you thought about doing it at all where you're somewhat parlaying it, but not the whole thing, and then maybe into out of the money options? That way, if you're right, that's going to be the gamma. That's going to give you the I guess the big win you're looking for, where you're not parlaying just the whole thing, but the explosion in your deltas could come from just out of the money options in case you are right.
I mean, I have started to do that a little bit. Maybe I misspoke. I definitely wasn't buying in the money. Is that what I said? I was buying like 15 points.
No, I realize it's a little out of the money.
Okay. I mean, I've started to try to make tweaks on that, but definitely not rolling at all. Or if I feel like I need more time on the idea, I'll maybe re-roll like a third or a quarter of the profits from the trade into, a little bit more out of the money with further dated, but definitely not at all. Like, I mean, Workhorse, for example, I did something similar like that where I had an options trade in here and then I knew I was running out of time on it. And I just thought any sort of adverse move was going to be too drastic with no time left in it. So I just locked it in, and then I rolled like a third of the profit into a further dated lower strike. So I think something that's fine. But I mean, I would have never rolled the way I did on SPY and something like this. Just I think there's too many factors that are out of my control. I mean, same with SPY though. There's infinite factors out of my control.
So if we repeat this in the next month after the election, whoever wins, whatever happens, spike. If you see the same thing present itself, what do you do different? You just go half size, or you the first two?
I think I would just basically just roll a certain percentage if I thought it was still fit. thought the idea was valid, and I still had conviction. I mean, I think what I could have done better here was, I think, not rolling, like, if I risk 1R makes 3, not just rolling 1R again. Like, maybe I can do 1.5, and then if I do lock in like a decent win, maybe do the same thing, risking like a third of the profit or something. Obviously that has to do with like what the probability is too, because there's going to be some options that I'm buying where the win rate is, you know, even 50% at a 2-to-1 in an option is not going to be horrible, versus some of these lottos that you're buying where the win rate might be 25%, but you're obviously going to get paid off if it works. So I think it has to, you know, it differs between scenarios.